Hey beautiful beaders, it's Gina from orchidandopal.com and welcome to the Painted Lady Cubic Right Angle Weave Earring Tutorial. So these particular daggers are what inspired me to create these earrings. These remind me of a part of a butterfly wing or a dragonfly wing, hence the name Painted Lady as in the Painted Lady Butterfly. You will be able to find these and all the materials that you'll need to make these earrings at EurekaCrystalBeads.com. They have a wonderful selection of dagger beads and other jewelry making supplies. So I will leave a link to all of these materials down below, as well as a specific list of what I am using today. These earrings look gorgeous in all different color combinations. I whipped up some in a black and silver, as you can see here. Here is a close-up look at these. And today we will be completing the other earring to finish off this set of blue and silver. Now here are all the things that you need to make a pair of these earrings. You're going to need 120 2mm fire polish beads. You can see the ones I have here. You're going to need a little pinch of 15-0 seed beads. I'm not going to count them all out, but it's not a very large amount. You will need at least 3 inches of some type of chain to affix your beaded portion to your ear wire. You'll also need 2 ear wires, 4 wire guards, 4 jump rings, and of course 2 dagger beads. These are the 15 by 6mm size, and like I said, all the specifics about what you'll need and what I'm using are down below. Besides that, the obvious, you will need some scissors, some jewelry pliers, about 8 or 9 feet of beading thread. I choose to use a 6-pound Fireline, which is the equivalent of a 0.006mm size thread, and a size 10 beading needle. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, to get started, you'll want to go ahead and thread your beading needle, and I do want to mention I do have a coupon code for Eureka Crystal Beads. It is ORCHID15 if you'd like to save 15% off your purchase. That is a one-time use code. It is not valid on sale items, and I will list any other exclusions below. So now that you have your needle threaded, go ahead and pick up 4 of your 2mm fire polish. This is all we're going to be using to get started. We're going to be creating the base of these earrings in a cubic right angle weave type of pattern. So if you're familiar with cubic right angle weave, this will be very simple for you. If you are brand new to it, you may want to watch this tutorial first just to understand the process a little bit better before you get started. But once you do it, it's pretty easy to get the hang of. So we have our 4 2mm beads on our beading thread, and I've pulled it down, and we want to leave about, we'll say about an 8-inch tail, and we're going to be weaving that tail back in as we get further into the project. Now swing your needle around and go back through all 4 of those 2mm beads and pull that so that it forms a little sort of loop like that. It's at least starting to. Now you want to go back through the first bead and pull it all the way down. That's going to complete your loop. Now go through the next bead that you get to, and finally go through that third bead or the very next bead. Now you're ready to continue your beading. You want to pick up 3 more 2mm beads, swing your needle around and go through the opposite end of the bead that you're coming out of, just like that. And that is going to form another little loop over here. Now you can see your thread is coming out of this bead. You want to head right to that next bead right there and pull your thread through, and then head up through that 2mm bead that's on the end. Now you're going to be adding 3 more 2mm and doing the exact same thing you just did by swinging your needle around and going through the opposite direction of that end bead through the opposite hole, and pull that all nice and tight. And now your thread is coming out of this bead. Now head directly to the right through that bead that's to the right of the bead you're coming out of, and then head down through the bead that is on the end. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start the base cube. You can see that if we fold this up, it's starting to form a little bit of a cube shape, but we need to finish it off. So fold those 2 ends up together like a taco and look at the face of this side. You see 1, 2, 3. We need a 4th bead right on the top to complete our square. So pick up another 2mm fire polish, and since we're coming out of this bead right here, we're going to pop that 2mm in between those beads and head through the 2mm fire polish that is sitting next to the one that you're coming out of. And then pull that, and you can see that added the 4th bead to our square face. So each of these faces need to have 4 beads, making a square. So that's the bead we just added. We can look at this face and see that we only have 3 beads. We want to go ahead and add another one right there. So pick up a 2mm, and you're coming out of this one right here, go through this 2mm directly next to it to pop the 4th bead into place to complete that square. So now we have the base of our cube, but we really should tighten this up a little bit. It's still a little bit loose, especially this face right here. So I'm coming out of this bead, and there's multiple ways you can do it. You can go in different directions. As you learn cubic right angle weave and get a little bit more comfortable with it, you can see and understand a little bit better how it all works. So I'm just reinforcing it by going through some of these beads all over again, one at a time. It's good if you go through them one at a time because then it will hold its square shape a little bit better. And I'm just going around this square face first. That seemed to be the loosest area. And I'm just going to flip it and go through this square face. Just like that. And that'll give us a sturdier base to continue our beading. And I'm just going to end it right now by going through this bead here, and we're going to be working in kind of a counterclockwise direction. So get yourself to a point where you're coming out of one of your 2mm beads, kind of like this, and pick up 3 more 2mm beads. Now go through the opposite end of the bead that you're coming out of and pull those all the way down. You can see you have a little loop here. This is going to be forming another side of our next little cube that we're adding on. You can see we're coming out here, and now you need to move counterclockwise through the next 2mm bead. Now we're ready to complete this facing of our next cube, and we want to pick up just 2 2mm beads this time because we already have this side and this side in place. So pick up 2 and then go down through this bead that's sitting up on the right and pull those beads down, and that completes this facing of our next cube. Now go through this bead down here on the bottom, turn your work, and then go through the next bead that you get to that is going to be the bottom of our next square face. So just like you did before, you already have the bottom and the side of that square in place. So you just want to pick up 2 more 2mm fire polish and go down through the bead that is on the right. Pull those down, and there's the 3rd facing of this next cube that you're forming. Again, go through this base 2mm bead and go through the next one that you get to also. You'll notice it's easier as you go along because the piece will start to get bigger and keep its shape a little bit better. So we're coming out of this bottom bead right here, go up through the bead that's sitting there on the left, and this time you only need to add 1 2mm bead to complete this facing. So pick up 1 2mm bead and go down through the 2mm that is on the right to complete that cube. So there's our second cube sitting on top of the first one that we did. And now I just want to strengthen this top section. So we're going to make our way to the top. Right now I'm coming down out of this bead, so I'm just going to go through this one, back up, following the thread path, and now I'm going to go all the way around these top 4 beads. And that's just going to cinch everything together a little bit more. And then we'll be ready for our next cube. As you can see from the finished earring, we are going to do 4 cubes in a row down this way, and then we're going to be attaching 3 going up this way to make our little chevron pattern. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to repeat the steps that I took to make that second cube 2 more times to complete our 4 cubes. I'm going to go at my pace. If you need to, you can back up the video and watch the instructions again, or if you're comfortable with it, you can bead along with me. Alright, so we have our 4 cubes completed, and now we're ready to build on that and add 3 cubes going up this way to make our V. So from this point coming out of this bead right here, out of that end, we want to add 3 more 2mm fire polish and then go through the opposite hole of that bead on the end, just like we did before, just like that, and that's going to be angling up that way. Now go through the 2mm that is directly next to the one that you're coming out of and pull, and now we need to complete this facing, so we just need 2 more 2mm fire polish beads, and we'll be going down through this 2mm that is on the end. So pull those down. Now go through the 2mm that is on the bottom of that square and continue around by going through the 2mm that is right next to that, and finish your next facing here. So add on 2 more 2mm fire polish and go down this 2mm bead that is on the right there. Now go through the 2mm that is on the bottom of that facing and pull. Turn your work if you need to, and then we're going to be completing this last facing, and we just need 1 more fire polish bead right there on the top. So make your way up to that point to where you can add that last fire polish that you need there. So pick one up and then go down this side, and that completed that facing. And now, just like you did before, you want to tighten that up, so we're just going to go through a couple more beads to make our way to the top of that cube, going up in this direction, one bead at a time, and you're just going to be going through all 4 of those beads on the top just to tighten it up a little bit. And then once you get back to this point, you're ready to build on top of that with another cube. And just like I did before, if you need to back up the video and rewatch it, feel free to do that or pause it. I'm just going to finish off the next 2 cubes at my own pace, so feel free to bead along with me. Alright, so at this point you have your cubic right angle weave V completed, and now you're just ready to embellish it. So you'll want to pull out just a pinch of 15-0 seed beads, pull out your dagger, pull out your wire guards, and since we're on the end of this side of the V, we're going to go ahead and attach one of our wire guards to that side. So I want my wire guard to sit kind of at a diagonal from this point and the space in between those 2 beads there over to the space in between these 2 beads right here. As you can see, I'm coming out of this bead on the right. I'm going to pick up one of my 15-0s and go through one side of a wire guardian and pull those down. Then I want to go through the other side of the wire guardian and pick up one more 15-0. Since we're coming out of this bead right here, we want to go through the opposite. So this would be the opposite bead in the opposite direction. We're going to go through that one and pull this. And that's situated our wire guard at an angle in between those 2 spaces. Now continue on through the next fire polish that you get to and make your way back over to that spot right there where this side of the wire guardian is sitting, and go up through that 15-0 and wire guard again. This is just going to add a little bit more strength. Go down through the other side of the wire guard and the other 15-0. And then you may or may not be able to see the thread for the first time we pass through it is going in this direction. Now we're going to go in the opposite direction just to secure that wire guard and tack it down just a little bit better. And there you have it. Now we need to start adding on our 15-0 little stripes, and what we want is to come out of this top corner 2mm bead right there where my needle is. So we just need to make our way back to that bead because that's where we're going to be starting our first stripe. So just go through however many beads you need to go through to get over to that one, which is going to end up being this bead that I'm going through right now, just like that. And you're going to make your first stripe by adding on 6 seed beads and going diagonally across that first cube. So you're going to go diagonally down to this bead. You can see the hole is facing you, and that's what you want. You want to go through that bead right there. And that's going to place your 6 seed beads right there on the top of that cube. Now you can see on the back, I'm coming out of this bead right here. I'm going to go up through the next one that I get to on the back. And we're just making our way to be in our position to make our next stripe, going through that one there. And I'm again ready to add 6 more seed beads. So pick up 6 of those and go diagonally again down through that bead with that hole facing you. Flip it over if you need to and go up through the next 2mm you get to, and then through the next one to position yourself at that next hole to add your next stripe. Now go up through the next 2mm bead and then through that one that's right in the middle of the V, and we're going to be adding a stripe going vertically. So add 6 more seed beads and then go through that very bottom 2mm fire polish. There we go. So we have half our stripes on, and at this point we can add one of our daggers. So if you flip it over, you can see we're coming out of that bottom bead. Go up through this bead that is on the right side of that. Add on 3 15-0s, and that's just going to hide our thread because we need to go back down through the fire polish that is sitting next to that. And to start attaching our dagger, we want to pick up 4 15-0s, then pick up your dagger, pull that down, and then pick up 3 15-0s. Now go through the very first 15-0 on the other side of your dagger. And if you pull that down, you should have something that looks like this. Now we want to make our way to the other side so that it is attached on both sides. I'm just going to go through the 2mm that I get to next there at the bottom and pull that. And then I'm going to go up through this one that's sitting there on the left when we're facing the front of the piece. I'm just going to pass under that stripe of 15-0s because we're not going to see that thread with the stripe sitting there, and then down through the 2mm that is on the front right. Pull that down, and we're going to pretty much do the same thing we did on the back, where we are going to be adding 4 15-0s. And we're going to go through the dagger and then we're going to be adding 3 15-0s on the other side of the dagger and go straight up through the 15-0 that you added. At the same time, if you want, you can also go through that 2mm that's sitting on the left of the bottom of the V. Pull this and make sure everything is situated well. You can see now the dagger is attached right in the center of everything, and we want to make our way up to this bead right here with the hole that's facing us so that we can continue our stripes. So follow the thread path up to that bead by just weaving your way through the 2mm one bead at a time. And there we are. So now add on 6 more 15-0s and go diagonally down through the other 2mm bead with that hole facing up on the other side of that square facing. And just like we did before, you can make your way over to this one or this one in order to complete your next stripe. I think I'm going to just continue at the bottom, go through that bead and go up through this one. Pick up 6 more 15-ohs, go diagonally through the other 2mm. And since I'm up at the top, I'm just going to go through these couple of beads to complete my next stripe, coming out of that one and picking up 6 more and going down through that other 2mm diagonally, and there are all of our stripes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to knot off this thread, and then I'm going to pop my needle on the tail thread that we left. And with that tail thread, we are then going to attach our other wire guardian, and that will complete the beaded portion. So right now, like I said, I'm just going to knot off this thread by going under one of the thread bridges to make a loop, and going through that and pulling it tight, going through another bead, going under a thread bridge, making a loop, going through that, pulling it tight. I'm going to go down this way, and depending on how much thread you have left, feel free to go through as many beads as you want just to reinforce your beaded portion as much as you're comfortable with. So I did 3 knots. I'm just going to go down through this next bead to hide it a little bit better, and I'm going to clip that off with my scissors and pop my needle on my tail thread so that we can add our next wire guardian. Alright, so we want the other side to kind of mirror this side. You can see that I did this wire guard diagonally. That way with one end, which would be right here if we're doing it symmetrically, which we're already kind of coming out of that side, so that works. So again, I'm going to pick up a 15-0, one side of the wire guardian, or wire guard, you can use either term. Go through the other end of the wire guard, pick up a 15-0, and you want to go through the opposite hole in the opposite direction, which would be that one, and pull the wire guard down so that it starts to sit in place. And now I'm just going to go through the next 2mm bead that I get to, which puts me into position to go back up this side of the 15-0 and the wire guard, because we want to do 2 passes through that just to make sure it's sitting there extra secure, and going back down the wire guard and the 15-0 on the other side, pulling our thread down so the thread sits right there in that groove. And before we were attaching the wire guard to this bead, and now we want to attach it to the bead on the other side, so we're going to go through there. And there it is in place. So now we're ready to knot off this side. So like we did before, I'm just going to go under this thread bridge, through the loop, pull it tight, go down through another bead, make another knot there, through this 2mm, and do that as much as you feel the need to. So there's our beaded portion. I think it looks great. This is a close-up look at how the back should look. And now we're ready to attach our chain and our ear wires and our jump rings. I'm just going to move these 15-0s out of the way. And if you're deciding to use the same chain that I have here that's from EurekaCrystalBeads.com, this is called a bubbler chain, and I have 27 little loops on here, so feel free to count that out, and it's an odd number because the ear wire is going to be positioned in the center loop of that. If you aren't using this exact same chain, here is a look at the approximate measurement of that. It's just a little over 1.5 inches is what I'm using to achieve this look. Of course, you could adjust that according to the length that you want. Now, of course, pretty simple. We're just going to be opening the jump ring for one side. We're going to pop on one side of our beaded portion along with the end of one of our chain segments and close that back up. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So just open that jump ring by twisting it gently, pop on the other side of our beaded portion as well as the other end of the chain, and close the jump ring, and now we can attach our ear wire. So because I'm using 27 links, I want to count to the 14th one, which would be that one right there where I've stuck my needle. We just want to make sure that this ear wire is centered, and I'm just going to twist that open a little bit, and with the help of my needle just kind of hold that in place so I can slide on my ear wire. And now I'm just going to twist this back like that. And that is our completed earring. So that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it was easy for you to follow. Please feel free, as always, to leave me a comment or question down below. And don't forget, all these materials can be found at eurekacrystalbeads.com, and the full materials list will be down below. You can do this in so many different color variations. Like I said, they have some beautiful daggers and other beads on the Eureka Crystal Beads site, and you can use that code ORCHID15 if you'd like to save 15% off your regular priced purchase. So I want to thank you guys so much for being with me again for another tutorial. I really enjoy creating these for you, and I am always so happy to have you here beading along with me. So until next time, I hope you guys have a fabulous rest of your day, and as always, happy beading. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. For more content like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of my latest videos. You can check out the information section below this video for links to all my social media handles, recommended products, and my shop and blog at orchidandopal.com. Thanks for watching.